Authority, over 80 buildings have collapsed in the past 5 years, and that have those particular buildings have taken the lives of many Kenyans, and we just want to get the record straight. What is happening? Engineer Shammah Kiteme, the Honorary Secretary of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya, is here with me on set. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Betty.
Karibu sana. Quite a grim picture there. Buildings are collapsing. Sometimes you find it's projects that are collapsing, may it be bridges or whatever. What is happening?
Thank you very much, Betty, for having me. Viewers, my name is Engineer Shammah Kiteme, like you heard, and I am a practicing civil engineer, registered with Engineers Board of Kenya, and I serve as a Honorary Secretary, Institution of Engineers of Kenya. So on the question of collapsed buildings, of course, you have indicated some statistics that are grim, if you were to really be honest. When you talk of, 200 lives lost, when you talk of over 3 billion investment lost, this is a serious matter that we have to take action. Primarily, buildings collapse because of several things. Number one, inadequate design or poor design. They also collapse because you have used the wrong materials. Buildings, especially of late, has also collapsed because of poor foundations. Now, the entire process of building is that you will get the designs, you will submit them for approval to the counties, to the authorities, and once they are approved, then you have the necessary permits, then you begin the construction. Now, if the design is inadequate, or you design a building for 4 floors and then you decide to build 6 floors, that means you have built what was not designed for. You are subjecting the foundations to failure. And you can also begin the construction, but you use the wrong materials. You don't mix concrete well, you don't let it cure properly, you're also a candidate for your building failing. All these things boil down to definitely the developer. The developer is a person investing in this infrastructure, this building. It is upon them to make sure that, one, the necessary approvals are acquired, you have the right professionals involved, and you don't just need the professionals at the point of submitting your building or your plans for approval. You actually need the professionals as you implement the building, because then they're able to ensure that you have implemented the building according to the design. They're able to check, for example, structural engineers will ascertain that there's a right mix of concrete, there's a right curing, the formwork is designed properly, and if there are issues that need to be resolved on site, they're resolved appropriately. So there is a very big gap when you do not retain the professionals during the implementation of the design. And this is something we definitely have to change. Now, the culture of wanting to cut corners, you don't want to spend on the professionals and all that. This is something that we must cure, because we have professional engineers, qualified, registered, and capable of delivering quality buildings. Now, the same research you have mentioned indicated that you'll hardly get public buildings fail. Of course, recently in Kisumu and Nyamira, we have had infrastructure failing that is actually from the counties. But if you have public facilities involving the national government, the chance of failure from the research itself shows they're very minimal. So a lot of collapses is affecting the private sector. And I believe public sector has the right engineers, they are engaged, and the right processes are followed. But in the private sector, because of the culture of wanting to do it very fast, wanting to realize the benefits of the same very fast, we cut corners. And that's why we have this menace. And it's unfortunate, but avoidable.
Right, it's quite unfortunate. Now, let's just go step by step. As you've rightly put it, you need a number of professionals to actually get that permit. Is there any way to ensure that now that you have the permit and you've gone into the construction phase, these professionals are actually engaged and their services are being, put into the construction of the building? Because it's pointless to have a permit that has all these professionals listed, but at the end of the day, their input is not felt in the construction.
To be fair, this is a conundrum we've been trying to fix as engineers ourselves, because buildings do not collapse because of architectural purposes. A failed architectural design can cause other reasons. For example, the building is not well ventilated. You can have a building that is basically a cave or a dungeon, no light and no stuff like that. That's how a building can fail architecturally. But buildings collapse because of structural reasons. Structural failure is what causes buildings to collapse. As engineers, we're very concerned, and we have gone out there and communicated clearly. Please engage registered, licensed structural engineers to design your building and supervise it. We are still reaching out. But the other thing we have engaged, we have engaged, of course, the authorities. We have engaged NCA, we have engaged the ministry and the government agencies responsible. And we have told them, look, we know the tendency is to cut corners, and now we have to move to the next level of enforcement. And enforcement means we must have a system of making sure that, yes, this engineer has been involved to design. He has been involved to get a permit from NCA, and NCA has done well because they are able to ask us, we have received this application, do you take responsibility for this? We accept or reject. But we need to go the extra mile, and this we have said, let there be a process of regular inspections, and when these regular inspections are done, we need a platform for uploading, for instance, the findings of that inspection. And we have recommended this, so that when the findings are adverse to the building, for instance, measures can be taken. And so the gap remains at that point of, this building has been approved, the construction is proceeding. What are the regular inspections? And ideally, we should have inspection notes at different levels. They are filed. They are kept both on site, but also probably uploaded on a platform, which is accessible to the architect involved, the structural engineer involved, and the authority itself. For example, NCM is able to tell what is happening. Because during construction, we not only want to make sure that the right steel has been used, we want to also do various tests. For example, slam test for the concrete that you used. You need to have done a concrete mix design to get the concrete class that you need. But also, we should be able, after you cast, take the samples for cubes and crush and test to ascertain whether you achieve the strength that you are supposed to achieve. All this needs to be documented on site. And the record needs to be availed. It needs to be availed for those who carry inspections. Now, if there is a deviation from what has been designed and what has been implemented on site, there are remedial measures if that is arrested on time. So for me, the gap is inspection and following up to make sure that right qualities, the quality works are done on site. And we probably should also have pointed out, even before you begin the construction, geotechnical investigations are very important. These are investigations on soil, because we build on soil. And if the soil does not have the capacity to carry the structure of the building you're trying to put up, then you are a candidate for failure or collapse for that matter. So you should have geotechnical investigations report available on site, much as we also need the material testing and quality, checks, inspection and testing plan for the quality of the works of the building. That should be available on site. It should be, so that then we can also track the life cycle and the building itself, the journey it went and all that, even in case of looking back and asking ourselves, what went wrong, peradventure, if it happens.
That report by NCA, it said that of 26,000 buildings that were inspected countrywide, 60% are not fit for human habitation. These are buildings that Kenyans are living in. They are waking up, with their families, leaving their children, going to work. And the probability of collapse is very high. So clearly Kenyans are living on the edge, so to say. Whose responsibility is it? How did we get to having 60% of the buildings that, are up being unfit for human habitation?
Well, I want to imagine you are alluding to the report from NBI, National Building Inspectorate, led by
that was
my good friend.
quoted by NCA.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a commission set up by the government after the collapse in Huruma in 2016 through executive order, and they were given mandate to go around looking at buildings. They checked and they realized there's a sizable number of buildings that are not in good working, in operating condition. Now, the good thing is the body, NBI, already recommended, gave several recommendations. There are those they instructed immediate evacuation, and they were evacuated. There are those they recommended other measures to be taken. Our hope is that this can be done. But you and I know it will not be cheap, for instance, to undo the damage for 60% of the buildings. It will not be cheap. Our cure is, number one, making sure that we get it right from the word go. You know, a building where you are staying, your family is staying, is just everything. It's your life. So you must be careful. And from our end as users, for instance, it's our right to ask for occupation certificate, for example, if you're occupying, you're moving into a building, you're renting and all that. Because the assumption is that every building is actually safe. But that is not necessarily the case, because we've seen the collapses and all that. I do not foresee a situation whereby now we have to bring down all these buildings. I do not foresee that situation. But there are measures, and especially if you involve structural engineers, there are measures you can take. You can retrofit. Others have to be, demolished, based on the recommendation of the authority and of NBI. But others you can retrofit, and they are good. But I say this. The structural failure of a building is catastrophic. It is catastrophic, and it is immediate. Of course, you can see signs. You can see cracks here and there. You can see difficulty to close doors and windows, which can tell you something is happening in the building. And so sometimes you can have time to evacuate and all that. Sometimes you may not have. But there are buildings which are sick. Sick buildings. Not only structurally, but also architecturally. It's a building you have to put on lights during the day because it is not designed well. Ventilation is not there. There are sick buildings. It's like a cave. It's like a dungeon, I did indicate. And so we must now start thinking about our investment where we stay. And think about having professionals so that you involve professionals to design. The architect is the artist of the building. The structural engineer is the scientist of the building. The QS is the accountant of the building and the economist of the building. So you need to have these people. Then and then only can we talk about safe habitation where we are staying. But the whole issue of the buildings that are not suitable for human occupation, there must be a way of evacuating people when we must evacuate them. If we can see immediate danger, we can also retrofit and make them better, because the science is there and the practice. As engineers, we know how to do that, so that then we can at least guarantee our buildings they are safe for all of us. Because every time you see these buildings collapse, it is our relatives, it is our neighbors, it is our friends, it is our acquaintances that are dying. And it is sad because this is a human-induced, disaster that we can avoid. Yeah.
Right. The housing deficit in this country is very high, about 200,000 annually. So that means buildings are coming up every day. Developers want to make money from this demand that exists. Sometimes you see buildings, one day you're looking at bare land, 3 months down the line, people are moving in. So what should people do to just, especially innocent Kenyans, what can they do to help this situation?
Number one, if you are a resident somewhere and you see a structure coming up very rapidly, please report. We have authorities. We have National Construction Authority. We have National Building Inspectorate. We even have the enforcement agencies like the police, please report. If you report, that is a first step, because the authorities are able to come and check whether the building meets the requirements. Now, it's not impossible to have an accelerated construction. You can have some admixtures and chemicals that you put into concrete so the curing is hastened. That is possible. But if a structure is coming up very fast, is that happening? Can the authorities ascertain that that is happening? Because that is very important. So when you report that, when you engage authorities, they're able to follow and check. And I can guarantee you, because of the incidences we have seen, we are fairly alert now. People or the authorities will take it seriously, and they're able to pick that up. Of course, if you have a building and you can see glaring cracks, for example, run for your safety. Invite authorities for and even as you invite the authorities, you can evacuate, because you should not wait for the building to collapse. You die over there, you will not be there to report again. So those are facts. So vigilance becomes then very important, and very many of us can tell when something is not right. They can tell. They will tell the rate at which this is coming up. They can tell that even the curing is not there, because there's that general knowledge in the society. And so vigilance becomes very important. Pointing out to authorities becomes very important. And you can be sure that measures will be taken, especially if you report. Now, I have pointed out the whole issue of making sure that here is a building you're trying to rent. Ask the owner of that building to give you a certificate of occupation, because a certificate of occupation comes at the terminal end of completion of a building. And because a building was approved, the certificate of occupation is evidence that the approving authorities ascertain that the right procedures were followed to construct that building and all that. And so if you're moving into a building, please ask for that from the developer. Now, I think they will get angry here and there, but it's your right, because really you want to guarantee the safety of your family and all that. And the building that the developer did not look for certificate of occupation, or it is not available, then you should have enough questions. Did it go through the right procedures for construction? You understand? So it becomes then very necessary for all of us to police the society and ask questions, because when a building has collapsed, it's pretty much too late. Lives are lost, investments are lost, and all of us are not safe if any one of us is not safe. Yeah.
When you talk about now engineers, let's talk about the profession, so to say. Who is a qualified engineer?
All right. Very good question. Who is a qualified engineer? I probably should give you the straight answer, then a long answer.
Okay.
The
straight one.
The straight answer is any engineer who is qualified, who is licensed, who is registered. You can search their name on the Engineers Board of Kenya website, and it will appear.
Right.
It will appear telling you the engineer is a civil engineer, is an electrical engineer, is a mechanical engineer, or is what. It will also appear telling you he is registered as a graduate engineer, is registered as a professional engineer, is registered as a consult engineer, is registered as an approved checker. So that is the straight answer.
That's the straight answer.
EBK website, check the name. I'm calling myself Engineer Shammah Kiteme. Check on the Engineers Board of Kenya website. I should be there if I am a qualified engineer.
Right.
The long one.
We will get to the long one in just a little bit. Engineer, you were giving us a short answer of who a qualified engineer is.
Yeah.
What is the long answer?
The long answer is that it's a process actually to train an engineer. Currently, we take 5 years of training at the university, and people become engineers at top grade, brains, top students, so that after 5 years now, you are supposed to practice for at least 3 more additional years. Normally, I mean, more than that. And so that tells you, for a qualified engineer, person who has that license and practicing rights, as it were, they have taken not less than 8 years. Ordinarily, you're talking about 10 plus years to get that license to practice as an engineer. And so when we tell you we have confidence that if you engage a licensed professional engineer, you are in safe hands, we actually mean it. Because the entire process of training means you finish your 5 years, after 5 years you have practiced under a licensed certified engineer. After those years of working under a licensed and practice engineer who is like your mentor, you now appear to the Engineers Board of Kenya. You go through evaluation to ascertain that now you have acquired the training and experience, you have the qualifications, and then you can be given the license to practice as a licensed engineer. So it's that is a long story of it, that you take years and years of training and getting to be certified and licensed. So the moment you engage this engineer, you will not go wrong, because they are trained enough to know what they should do, and what they do not do, they know who should do that. And so when we are appealing to the public and telling them, please engage licensed, registered, certified engineers, it's for safety. And engineers are trained to design systems, processes, and structures that are safe, that are functional, that are economical, reliable, sustainable, and all those. So you integrate various aspects of your design. You want economical construction. You also want safety. Safety comes number one. And so when you engage engineers, you don't go wrong. You get it right. Because really, when you're investing in your development, you're looking at 50, probably 100 years. We know buildings that are 100 years. And when you do shortcuts, you do yourself a lot of disservice, because you're a candidate of killing people, you are a candidate of losing investment. I mean, it just goes wrong. And like they say, it doesn't end wrong. It actually starts wrong. In this, what we're saying, this collapse of buildings is really avoidable. Yeah.
So you've said that there are qualified engineers, they are licensed, people even know where to go get them, to go look for their qualifications, so to say. Who are these developers engaging, these people whose buildings are collapsing or are unfit for human habitation? Who are they engaging for these services?
Betty, to be honest, the supply chain of corruption is long. It is long in this manner. You want to go and, get my license as a practice engineer. I'm not involved. And you use it to get your building approved through connivance with some official in the county, for instance. I am not aware. Through connivance with the officials, you get the building approved. And this building has been approved by, you don't know who. You don't know who has designed it. If they were qualified, they would use a license. Why are they using my license? Now, through connivance with the officials, I will not be aware that you use my license for that building to be approved. And this not once or twice that NCA has flagged in a building and come to our members, engineers, and ask them, are you responsible for this building? Our members don't know. You find that your license has been used to register 50 buildings. You do not know because of corruption. And that's why I've said the supply chain of corruption in this country is long and big. Our engagement with the COG and counties, just the other day, the lands CS, there was the lands meeting with the committee on COG. You're telling them, let us have a system of ensuring that if you are using my credentials as an engineer to register a building and to approve it, I consent somewhere. Because there are crook people using my license somewhere. I need to consent. And this is what happens with NCA. NCA is able to ask me, we have received this application, do you consent or do you accept responsibility? I accept. And then see, we are proposing the similar platform to be used in counties. You understand? Because as we speak, so many of our members, their licenses have been used to register buildings without their knowledge.
Okay.
Or I register one building using the genuine, I take responsibility for that. Genuinely, my credentials are used. The same people in that county, they will retain my papers and register so many other buildings without my knowledge and all that. That is also happening. And so then the whole issue of quacks comes in. Because if there was a process of making sure I take ownership at the registration of the building for approval and all that, then I know when I'm consenting, I am taking responsibility. Okay. And that's what we have challenged the counties to have a system like the NCA has here.
All right. Engineer, you were talking about how the process that is done at the national level needs to be cascaded down to the county level. Go ahead, please.
Yes, so we do feel strongly that if there's a way for counties, and to begin with, if they can embrace online submission of plans for approval. We have a few counties that have embraced that, Nairobi, Kajiado, Kiambu, although with challenges here and there. But our recommendation is that the 47 counties should be able to implement online approval processes. What that will ensure is that, one, we reduce the contact with the people involved, because that is a route towards corruption, to be honest. Then when that is done, we are able to upload the architectural, structural, and the developer upload, and then get determination of what we are supposed to pay. And I find the government drive towards the digitization to be excellent. Minimal contact with people, because that's where now corruption comes in. Now, with that, counties should move to the next step. Every time they receive an application for approval, and it quotes Engineer Shammah Kiteme is responsible as the structural engineer, we usually submit our indemnity form and all that. They should have a way of sending me an email and asking me, do you take responsibility for this? And I've said this is something that happens with the National Construction Authority. They are able to send you an email and ask you, accept or reject the responsibility for the design, because we have received this application that has been put, LR number what, description of the project. Let counties embrace that. The other thing, and this is a very big challenge we have in counties, they do not have the capacity. They are not engaging professional engineers themselves to check and ascertain that the designs are done correctly before they approve. That's a very big problem. Okay. And this is administrative political problem. It is the administrators and the leaders and managers at the county level to make sure they engage, they recruit, they hire licensed professional engineers to head the county engineer's office, whatever office we're talking about, at the physical planning, the department, so that they make sure that every development is checked by a professional engineer before approval is done. The situation currently is that we have just anyone, a planner approving a structural drawing, anyone. I mean, a technician. Now, the funny thing is, for me, for the developer to submit the designs for approval, the drawings and all that, they have to have a license for practicing engineer. Yes. How then do you subject what has been submitted by a professional engineer to a technician or to a planner, someone who is not a professional engineer? Counties must recruit the right professionals to make sure that the approval process adds value. It is not merely for them to generate revenue through the developments that have been approved. We must add value to the process of approval, and that process will come, that value will come in when they engage professionals at the other end. In the judicial system, there is a bar and the bench. The bar, they have the lawyers. The bench, they have the lawyers. Only that they are sitting as magistrates or justice. The lawyers also, the bar are the lawyers. When they are prosecuting the case, they can understand one another's language. In a similar manner, when we submit our designs, let us have professional licensed engineers in the counties checking them. And let us have questions. Your design is not adequate, because we design to standards. We design to Eurocodes now, or structures, we're supposed to submit with design to Eurocodes. And only engineers can understand what I have submitted. It is not another person. So, and this is really an administrative issue. It's a leadership issue. It's a governance issue. Counties, they must take that extra step and make sure that we have the right people for the approvals to be done.
How many engineers are in Kenya licensed?
We have slightly over 3,000 professional engineers who are in the professional consulting engineers. Of course, the ratio of engineer to population is very low. And as IEK, we are working very hard to make sure that more engineers move from the lower category of graduate engineer to professional engineer, when now they are expected to take professional responsibility. And this happens across the board. If you train as a doctor, you have to do internship, one internship for you to get a license. If you go to the School of Law, you have to get the pupillage, go to Kenya School of Law for you to get your advocates, to practice an advocate. For us engineers also, we have that process. You have to go through the training, you have to get the experience, you have to do the training and experience report, you have to demonstrate you have developed a professional competency to make independent decisions. And that is what we are doing, so that we have enough engineers also who can do this. But those who are there, some are jobless, because their works have been taken by zigzag. Yes, some are jobless. So what you're saying is, we must engage them. And I'm telling you, the kind of infrastructure lookout we're looking at, we could make them very busy. Why not for those shortcuts that we want to cut? Yeah.
So for a Kenyan who is watching, they're thinking of starting construction, not necessarily for apartment buildings or high-rise buildings, just for their own house. What is the right procedure to follow?
Well, the right procedure to follow is this. One, you make sure you have the land, you have the title deed, you have the idea that you want. Ordinarily in the billing, you want to engage an architect to give you the design for space, in terms of this way I want the bedroom, this way I want the kitchen, this way I want what size is it, and all that. And then after that, you also need the services now of the structural engineer. The structural engineer should be able to design the structural aspects. The foundation should be able to determine the soil is okay, should be able to tell you you are safer using steel or timber. That's the construction materials. Then you now need to get, you submit it for approval. When you have now all the designs and the plans, you need to submit it for approval to normally the planning department in the county. Then there are fees you're supposed to pay. Then once you approve it, once it's approved, now you can also submit to NCA, where you get the permit for construction. Now, depending on the magnitude and where you're building it, you may need WARMA to clear you, Water Resources Authority. You may need NEMA, National Environmental Management Authority. So along the way, but you will understand. Now, it should not be a headache. The issue is if you engage the professionals, they're able to guide you what you need. But you are safer that way. Engage the professionals. Now, you also need the mechanical engineer to design. If your building needs AC, you need the plumbing. You also need the electrical engineer to design the lighting, power, and all those. If you have lifts and all that, you need the right engineers, and those are mechanical, electrical engineers to install for that. So basically, if you really engage the professionals, you're going to get it right. You're going to get an investment that you're going to be proud of 50 years down the line, 100 years down the line, if you live to be 150.
For Kenyans who are maybe thinking of construction, they're looking at the cost implications. How affordable are these services? I mean, considering that there are quacks in the industry who are ready to give for a very, a small fee. How affordable are they?
Very affordable, to be honest, Betty. Look, if you are investing, for instance, an investment of 100 million, consultants and the engineers will not ask you for 1% of that fees. You understand? There's a scale of fees that has been gazetted that you can refer to. This is the cost you should charge, the mechanical engineer should charge, the cost the professional, the civil engineer should charge, and structural engineer. That is there. And I can tell you, it's very minimal. It's very reasonable. The problem is the undercutting. I tell you, for me to give you good design, I'm going to charge you whatever, XYZ. Then you have a character here who wants to charge you 10% of that. You should actually question yourself. If the right professional is asking me this amount of money, this guy, what will he do if he's charging this little? Because fees are regulated, and I'm telling the developers, you should not be misled. The fees are regulated. There is a engineer scale of fees, which has been gazetted. It's available in the EBK website. You can know what you even need to pay to the engineers up front. Now, engineers are nice people. If you negotiate, they will listen, and they'll give you something that is reasonable. So the fees are not prohibitive. In any case, it is illogical and reasonable to invest 100 million project and you don't pay a few thousands of shillings to safeguard that investment. When it comes crumbling down, you will regret. You should have paid the little thing to safeguard 100 million building. And so I want to assure every developer and every citizen that engineers' fees are not exorbitant. They're very reasonable, and engineers are nice people. They will negotiate with you also. Yes.
So as we get to a close of this conversation, I would like you to speak to the future of this industry, specifically in terms of constructions. Is there hope for Kenyans to, not live in uninhabitable houses?
Betty, there is hope, and that's why I'm here. I'm very confident that we will increasingly undo the mistakes we have committed. We will stop cutting corners. The Institution of Engineers of Kenya is engaging national government, county governments, the ministries, development and agencies, just to make sure we get it right. We are proposing policy and legislative a framework that will tighten the noose. And that's why I've indicated the need for counties to embrace online submission and approval. That's why I've indicated for the need for counties to have a system of ascertaining that I have submitted this billing. Send me an email to confirm that I accept responsibility. And I can tell you, this awareness that we are raising is starting to bear fruits. People, I receive almost on a constant basis, such and such a building is being constructed here, it is illegal construction. It has an NCA mark to be demolished. We receive now almost on a constant basis such kind of thing. So the awareness is starting to bear fruit, and I'm very optimistic. What we need to do, and we are going to go out, especially this month of February, to engage more and more and tell the public, please, it is for your own good, it's for our own good as a society. When we engage professional engineers, when we follow the right processes, we are talking to counties and telling them, let us add value to the approval process. Let us not just be there to receive money because development has to be done. Let us have professional engineers engage in the counties and let them check that what is being submitted is safe. Let us enhance the checks, the inspections, and let us have a way of ascertaining that inspection and testing plans are followed and keenly adhered to, because that is the only way we are going to ensure that the constructions are safe. We are going to ensure the safety of public. Again, I will tell you and remind you, please engage professional engineers, because the designs they will provide, they are not only safe for you, they are economical, they are functional, they are reliable, they are sustainable, and we are able to add a lot of value to your investment. Yeah. Before we close, I would like you to repeat how they can check that someone is licensed, please. Absolutely. If I come to you and I tell you I'm an engineer and I'm qualified, please go to Engineers Board of Kenya website. Engineers Board of Kenya, Google my name. You have a way of Googling. Google, check my name. If I am an engineer in good standing, you'll find me. EBK also gazettes the list of all qualified engineers every April. And that gazette notice is there. You're able to check and ascertain whether I'm a quack or I'm a qualified engineer.
Thank you very much, Engineer, for your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
That is Engineer Shammah Kiteme. He is the Honorary Secretary at the Institution of Engineers of Kenya. We have been talking about solutions to the collapsed buildings that have been, or rather the buildings that have been collapsing over the years, and why the engineers are a key component in construction. And what you need to do is to ensure that you are dealing with licensed engineers, deal with licensed professionals to ensure that your investment does not go to waste, and at the same time that you do not kill people in buildings collapsing. This is BizCheck. We want to take a quick break. When we come back, BizCheck continues. Stay with us.